Hey everybody, my name is yours truly, and today I'll be teaching you how to quickscope in Cold War. Well, at least I'll be trying to. I'm not the best teacher, so all I can really say is personal preference is the key to success. So I hope you guys like this video and enjoy the video. So what we want to learn first is our dead zones on the controller, because like I said, personal preference is the key to success. So as you can see, my game died on me. Now if I scroll all the way down here to my dead zones, as you can see, my left joystick, my move stick, is at 1, while my right joystick, my look stick, is at 7. Mainly because my right joystick has a lot more dead zones than my left joystick. And if I were to put this all the way down and move my joystick, you could barely see a little bit moving, but if I move it more, you can definitely see the movement. I'm not even touching the controller. So what you want to do is you want to keep moving your controller dead zone up until you find the correct one, which is where it lead me up to 7 because my controller actually handled that 7. And your move sensitivity is actually worth it too, but I keep it at 1 because it barely affects the dead zones at all. So sometimes my legs does twitch, but at least it keeps me from getting kicked from idling. Now another thing I want to talk about is a new feature added to Cold War, which is called trigger dead zone sensitivity. Basically, at default, it's at 13, but if I put it all the way to 1, then all I have to do is move the trigger just a tiny bit, and it fires the gun. And I'm pulling the trigger not even halfway to the middle, and it's just firing. Which is why I love this sensitivity. But you gotta be careful with it because 0.01 is actually the best sensitivity for quickscoping. But if I were to, for some reason, crank this up all the way to 100, or 99 plus, watch what happens if I try to shoot my weapon. See? It's not firing at all. So if I were to put it all the way back to 0, 1. Actually, I might have to do this manually. Sometimes it doesn't work. Now I'll put it all the way back to 0, 1. Barely tap it a tiny little bit to the middle, and it fires the gun. And I actually love the sensitivity, so if you want to get better at quickscoping, definitely put this all the way down, because if you don't, you may have some trouble with quickscoping. I'll just say that. Now, another thing I want to talk about is your FOV, because your FOV is actually more important in this game than most people recognize. So, as you can see, I have 115 on my field of view, because whenever I'm quickscoping, I can actually control my sniper and my sensitivity on this field of view. Now, if I were to reset this all the way back, you can see the big difference. You see, it's like Black Ops 4 all over again, and it's a huge, dynamic mess, and I can't barely see the target. So if I put this all the way back up, and back to normal, you can see the huge difference. See, I can see a lot better and stuff, and I can actually see my targets for once. Now, field of view is actually personal preference. However, I highly recommend you mess with your field of view before your sensitivity. So that way, whenever you get the correct field of view, you can have the correct sensitivity for that field of view. Because sensitivity does actually vary to your field of view. So if you want your sensitivity to be on point to your field of view, make sure to tinker with the field of view first, then your sensitivity. So that way, you'll most likely find the best field of view and sensitivity for you. That's what I... Next thing I'm going to tell you. 100% absolutely turn motion blur off. Now you're probably wondering, well, why not? It just gives me a little blur. But yeah, if I turn on motion blur, you can see the blurriness of my weapon, and if I spin around, you can slightly see some blur around when I'm turning around. That can make it to where I can't barely see the enemies on my monitor. I don't know what's for your monitor, but if I were to disable this, see, no motion blur on my weapon, and there's no motion blur when I'm spinning around like this. I see people make this mistake all the time when they're quickscoping. They're messing around with the ADS field of view. Now, I'm going to say this right now. Even though it says it zooms in field of view intendedly and independent, and it does not affect that when you're unaffected. But if you read the description, it says does not apply to zooms with magnifications over 4x, which means if I leave it on independent, you don't see a difference whenever I'm zooming in. You can take a picture of this if you want and compare it, but if I switch it to affected, nothing changes. Like, absolutely nothing changes. Now, for my secondary, on the other hand, if it's a pistol or anything else that isn't 4x zoomed, then when you're using affected, you can see the zoom level isn't actually going effectively. So if I switch it independently, there's the problem. You see, the field of view is actually zooming in more. But as you can see, with the sniper rifles, does not change one bit. Only the ones with under 4x, because those are the ones affected by it. So the next thing I want to talk about is your sensitivity. Now, as you can see, I have 13.5 sensitivity on both vertical and horizontal, and I have 2.2 on high zoom. Now, the low zoom, on the other hand, is under 4x zooms, meaning iron sights and anything under 4x of a scope or an iron sight or even a red dot sight will use low zoom. Anything over 4x, however, like a sniper rifle scope, will have high zoom level. Even if it's 4.25, it's over 4x, so it will go over. If it's under 4x, it will use low zoom. So under 4x, low zoom, over 4x, high zoom. Now, you're probably wondering, why do I have 13.5 sensitivity on my joystick? Well, mainly because I have this attachment on my right joystick. I probably wouldn't be able to say it's actually Control Freaks because it's really not, but let me just call it the little Timmy of Control Freaks. Basically, it's a Control Freak, except it's made by someone else. I'm not allowed to say name because I don't want to get copyrighted. But anyways, I'll just call it Control Freaks for now. So I have a Control Freak on my right stick, meaning I can move fast while using less pressure on the joystick. Meaning I can actually move a lot faster as if I were moving a lot slower with my thumb. Now, the reason why I have 2.2 on my high zoom is because when I'm flick shotting, I want to actually put pinpoint on target when I'm centering. So as you can see, this mannequin right here, if it was an enemy, I want to flick shot it. If my centering is not correct, and I want to have the correct sensitivity that is on point. Now, you don't always have to flick shot. If it's directly on center, you can just move it a tiny bit, or if it's directly on center, like right here, you can just do it like this. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you can flick shot, and this is why I have it at 2.2, so that way I can flick shot easily and still hit my target on point, if you're talking about like that. So now that I'm in the bot lobby, I'll show you a brief example of how I quickscope my controller and sensitivity. Since my sensitivity and my FOV is me, I can actually use that and crack.
They're gone.
Since this is a bot lobby, I don't really care about dying or losing XP or anything. Bot lobbies are usually bot lobbies, so you won't earn any XP.
One by.
Killing bots. You know what I mean? So don't worry about dying. It happens. Don't worry about losing shots. See, I missed there, but you get the big deal. So I'm just over here, rubbing everything, and all that stuff before the big online day and all that stuff. Yeah, big deal. Everyone trains. So now you know the example of me quickscoping with my sensitivity. And besides all that, audio in the game is all personal preference, so there really isn't the best audio other than the ones you like. But anyways, that's all I know about how to quickscope in Call of Duty. I tried my best into teaching you guys of how to quickscope. If this video helped you, make sure to hit that like button and send me some feedback of how well did I do of teaching you guys how to quickscope. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everybody.